Hello, Mark Sutt with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. Things are very busy, that is for sure. We had Gordon that made landfall last night as a tropical storm in extreme southwest Mississippi, basically on the Mississippi-Alabama border, and it was a little bit of a change in terms of the angle of approach that made a lot, we go from a little to a lot here, of difference in terms of what Mississippi experienced. Hardly anything in Biloxi, Gulfport, Waveland, you name it, and that goes for basically the whole southern three counties with the exception of extreme southeast Jackson County, Pascagoula, and the little small towns surrounding that area. Pascagoula is where I was for the landfall, and we experienced with a measured anemometer from Derek Thompson from South Dakota, a tornado, severe storms expert and chaser. I don't have the Chevy Tahoe anymore with my instrumentation on it, but he does. He's got another GMC truck and a 4-meter R.M. Young anemometer, just like I use, or used to use on my vehicle, and he measured no more than 60 miles per hour. And we were on the west side, so, we didn't, and we're only one spot, but we didn't feel like it was hurricane conditions there. It may have been over on Dauphin Island or in that right front quadrant, but on the west side where we were in that eye wall, if you will, probably 60 miles per hour is the best bet. He logged all the data, and I'm sure he'll pass that along to me, and then I can forward it to the National Hurricane Center with his, it'll be sort of a co-authored report. Does that make sense? So anyway, Gordon is now inland as a tropical depression over, as you can see there, west central Mississippi. That's the center of circulation. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment because it's not over. We're still going to have a lot of rainfall issues in this area over the next few days. Then, of course, there's Category 3, Hurricane Florence, defying the forecasts. I mean, this is going to be a real interesting situation and probably not in a good way over the next few days. And then we have Invest 92L, and this is almost a shoe-in to develop as well. And this is probably going to move off to the west-northwest with time and be somewhere in this vicinity. And yes, that includes the Northeast Caribbean islands in terms of you having to really pay attention to this. And then there is more activity about to emerge off the coast of Africa. And that will get us through most of September. And I think that'll be enough. We talked about September being very busy. I am very impressed, very impressed at how well telegraphed this was. We saw it coming, different experts looking at the patterns in the atmosphere, and here it is. So let's break it down. I want to show you what's going on here. This is the center of circulation of Gordon, and then you've got this big rain shield over to its east. So even though the center with some lighter rain showers is over west central Mississippi there, it's Alabama and parts of the Florida Panhandle still really under the gun from very heavy rainfall, squally conditions, travel across Interstate 10 here once you get into the Pensacola area, and then points west, and then south. You think about Foley, Alabama, Gulf Shores, and the I-10 corridor, not good. I-65 up here going towards Montgomery, not good. And then all the rural areas in between here, very heavy rain, rivers are on the rise, flooding is going to be a problem. And so I keep hammering this point that a hurricane is not a singular event in terms of it's a bunch of wind, and you see sort of that windy core video, very similar to what Josh Morgerman shoots. And here's some props to him. He shoots that amazing eye wall video. People think that's what a hurricane is all about. That's sort of the downside, because we also know that there's a lot of rainfall. There was a confirmed tornado, and from what I can tell, there's been unfortunately one death from a tree falling on a mobile home. So we really have to understand the entire concept of dealing with tropical storms and hurricanes. And as you can see, even though the center is here, this is a large area being impacted, and no, folks, that is not a point on a map. We're talking about a pretty large geographic area still being impacted by Gordon. And this is going to continue for the next few days as all of this moisture and low pressure moves up through this region and eventually washes out going around the backside of this big ridge of high pressure that is very prevalent over the eastern part of the country. All right, moving on along, this just kind of shows you graphically the green here, all this and the red related to Gordon with flash flood watches, and then of course warnings down here in southwest Alabama. And then this is unrelated to Gordon, but the tropical feed coming up out of the very warm Gulf, fueling some thunderstorms. Now this right here, this is a big clue as to what's going to happen with Florence, believe it or not. Look at this. This is all heat advisories. And you say, well, Mark, what does that have to do with Florence? Well, why would it be so darn hot in early September in the Northeast? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we have anomalous ridging, very strong high pressure, deep layer heat dome. I've seen different people, Dave Tolaris from Weather Risk, referring to the heat dome. And that's true. That's the air piling up thick in the atmosphere. We talk about the atmosphere has a thickness to it. And it's like looking at a contour map, how we can view that. And in this case, just very strong high pressure over the northeast United States, northwest Atlantic, southeast Canada, and that is an open invitation for hurricanes to come towards the lower 48. It's not a guarantee, it's just an invitation. And just like when you get an invitation, you can decline it. Sometimes the hurricanes don't come, sometimes they do. This is the pattern that we look for to see if it is possible. We are not seeing troughing coming down over the east with cool fall-like temperatures spreading in, and things like that. Nope, instead it's heat advisories. And that, my friends, is a huge clue. I'm telling you, that's a big part of the puzzle here. All right, so looking at the wide shot here, satellite imagery, tropicaltidbits.com. Thank you so much, Levi Cowan. Great to see this. I missed the floaters and the other stuff from the Hurricane Center site, so it's awesome that Levi at Tropical Tidbits and the folks at weathernerds.org, they've got some great satellite products too. Anyhow, this is an upper level low spinning westward, nothing to worry about. Remnants of Gordon through here, and then there is Florence. And Florence is going to undergo some changes over the next few days as it moves generally west-northwest to northwest. Stronger upper level winds will cut through this area and likely weaken it. And as it weakens and lowers its profile in the atmosphere, then this big area of building heights over the northwest Atlantic, and you can see that right there, will start to capture it and turn it more to the west with time, and that could be a big problem down the road. We'll just have to see. There will be an area around here that it could turn and connect with a trough and head out to sea, but that is starting to look a little less likely. How do we decipher what's going to happen? Well, we'll get into that in just a moment. I'll give you a few clues at least. And then, of course, 92L, this is going to continue to congeal and move to the west-northwest with time. And you folks in the Northeast Caribbean, Puerto Rico, please pay attention to this. Again, as if you need me to tell you that, but I'm just reminding you. In the Eastern Pacific, I don't want to ignore what's happening over here. More disturbances trying to get going off the coast of Mexico. We have been very lucky, nothing impacting the Baja or mainland Mexico. Maybe we'll get away with it this year. That would be great. We do have to watch Olivia, as it may track west and then actually turn south towards Hawaii, but we still have some time. Just putting it out there. I'm sure people have been talking about that as well. The potential of Olivia impacting Hawaii in 5 or 6 days, maybe more than that. We have plenty of time to watch and see how that evolves. All right. I want to take a look at last night's European, the ECMWF. This is 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. At 850 millibar level, we're looking at 850 millibars. And the cyclonic vorticity, there's that round look that I talk about very often. indicating where Florence is located. This is the large gyre of energy, if you will, associated with 92L. And this is, of course, Gordon. This was initialized last evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, what we call the 0Z run. This is important too because this is the outline of a trough of low pressure and its vorticity. All right, so this is the initial map. Now let's move through 24-hour increments. That's all we're able to get here from the public site here, from what Levi pulls down from the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. Hey, we'll take whatever we can get, right? The high-res stuff, you got to pay a lot of money for it. Well, relatively, depends on how you look at it. 24 hours will work for now, these increments. All right, so 24 hours, I guess what was that? That was 24. Well, I screwed up. That was not the initial map, but it'll be the initial map for my discussion. So that's 24 hours, valid tonight. I'm sorry, it's been a long few days. This is 48 hours. This is 72 hours. So let's just stop for a minute. There's Florence right there. There's the remnants of Gordon, just for what it's worth, because it's going to dump a lot of rain over here, folks. And then here is the outline in the atmosphere of another large area of high pressure. And it's moving this way. Very, very important. Remember all that heat I told you about over the northeast? Well, that's going to be replaced by more height anomalies in the atmosphere, stronger than normal, ridging over the northwest Atlantic. There is 92L developing. This is another system. It's only September 5th. Are you kidding me? It's going to be a long month ahead, folks. All right, 96 hours. That is Bermuda right there. I'm going to leave that up. And then finally at day 5, look what happens. And I mean, this is very concerning. Huge, sprawling area of high pressure sitting over the northwest Atlantic, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Maine, you name it. This does show the surface mean sea level pressure. See right there, MSLP, 1028 surface high, sitting over northeast parts of North America. And what do you have south of there? Hurricane. This is the setup that's the escape route right there. And this is a crucial junction, day 5. Does this get close enough to that escape route, that weakness between this ridge of high pressure and that one to head out? I don't know the answer, but this is where we're going to know Monday, September 10th. If Florence is, up here somewhere, it'll catch that trough and out it goes. If it's a little farther to the south, we really could have a big problem. And again, there's Bermuda, and Bermuda needs to watch this more than anybody right now. All right, let's keep moving on to day 6. Close to Bermuda, which is right in there. I need to leave the drawing on there, sorry. And Bermuda is important, so I want to make sure we keep that outlined. Then we see how this strengthens. That's 1032 millibars right there. That's the isobar line of equal pressure. 1032, are you kidding me? Not good. And then there is the escape route, and it has filled and sort of cut off. And if Florence doesn't catch that, it's probably coming west. And we can see that here on day 7. It turns west, and unfortunately, we don't have this coming. See, that's a trough of low pressure. It's too far west. That's another area, another chunk of high pressure coming out of Canada. Guess where this is sliding? Yep, this way. So that if we look at day 8, and this is not like, all I'm going to say is the Euro, you've heard this before, nailed Sandy at day 8. I wrote a blog about it 8 days before it happened. It was one of my most popular, widely shared blogs in the history of my website. 8 days before Sandy hit, the Europeans saw the pattern, and it did very well. Is it going to do the same again here? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But look at that. Day 8, any kind of troughing, energy's up here, too far north, energy back here to erode the ridge. Ridging extends west. This is at the shallower layers of the atmosphere, but look at this. It's just ridging all over the place, even nosing south. I don't know. I mean, that day 5, that's the key. And when you look at the anomalies in the 500 millibars. This is another layer up in the atmosphere. There's the outline of the ridge off the east coast. That's a big wall of air. Florence can't go that way. Not possible. And then you just look at the heights. I mean, this is anomalous ridging. There's no blue. Blue is below the norm. This has the makings of either, man, that was real close. That could have been bad. And it'll turn east of Bermuda. That's, there's no in between. This is either turning east of Bermuda or it's coming west, and it's going to be a massive problem. That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it. It's either going to make that turn this way, and everybody breathes a sigh of relief. But when you look at this, nothing but anomalous ridging heights, anomalous heights is what I should say, over the North Atlantic at day 8. So we'll see. No reason to even look at 9 and 10 because, when it makes landfall or whatever, people start freaking out. And we don't need that yet. I'll tell you when it's time to freak out. And then hopefully you do so using common sense. And this is a little bit concerning too, sea surface temperatures. How much do I hammer this and say, well, eventually it's going to be important. 29 Celsius all along the path if this gets close to the southeast or the mid-Atlantic. And then 29 Celsius all out here in the subtropics. And, the rest of this is 28. So 82, 83, 84 degrees, water temperatures. We have the makings of a huge problem. And we'll have to just watch this one model cycle at a time. It'll be nerve-wracking. And there's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of people just going nuts about it on social media. So focus on the people that can keep an even keel, people that are really new at this, that are putting out dire scenarios about a hurricane in some location. Ignore that. Try to focus in on people, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but there are others who really know what they're talking about. So use that and create a consensus of people that you trust. You have me here at HurricaneTrack. I appreciate that. I don't know everything, though. So try to surround yourself in terms of information sources with people that you know have done this for a while so that you can develop a consensus of what will probably happen. And then once we get out to within 5 days of this happening, if it's going to happen, then we can hone in on details in terms of impacts. All right? So, Anyway, I'm finishing up here in Mississippi. Collect the cameras, the weather station. I put them all out, and nothing happened to speak of. A little bit of activity on the Ocean Springs camera. But, hey, we talked to a police officer about it last night. I think we were in Ocean Springs, and he was kind of remarking that it's turning out to be a non-event. And I said, I guess it's better than the alternative of a Katrina. And he sighed and said, that took everything I had. In terms of his possessions, luckily it didn't kill anybody that he knew. But that's the way it goes. And in Florida, of course, this was a big impact for some people. Not so much for Mississippi. You just count your blessings, right? You just never know. All right, I'm finishing up here. Sorry about the rambling, but there's a lot on my mind, and it's hurricane season. I am in the mode, so to speak. I'm traveling back home. I'll be back in Wilmington tomorrow night. Along the way, of course, I will be posting updates, and we'll see what happens. I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks for following along, and I'll talk with you some more tomorrow.